I'm Bill Hemmer, live in New Orleans. Our coverage continues throughout the day here on Fox. We'll stay on this story and everything that is moving relative to Hurricane Rita. Juliet and Mike are next now on DaySide.
Bill, thank you.
Coming up on DaySide, Hurricane Rita is bearing down on Texas and Louisiana.
And New Orleans is flooding again.
We've got all of those stories and more
right now on DaySide.
looking nasty down there in New Orleans. This storm took that rightward turn, and now it is just heading towards that area.
Just devastating words and video from Bill Hemmer. Yeah, New Orleans is flooding again. This is a Fox News alert. The Gulf states bracing for Rita. The storm is nearly the size of Texas, a Texas-sized storm.
Yeah, it's massive. We have some news conferences coming up, and we'll go to them. But first, we're going to go to Bill Hemmer. He's in New Orleans, Rick Leventhal in Lake Charles, Louisiana, Carol McKinley in Galveston, Texas, and we start with Rick Wright News, rather. He is in the Fox Weather Center with the latest on what's happening. Rick, just give us the update.
Well, you know what? We are concerned, obviously, with New Orleans. We're going to be seeing a lot of rain pull into this. I think the big concern over the last couple of days is we've been seeing a consistent wind out of the southeast and east, which is the counterclockwise rotation that you see. When you see winds for such a long time over such a large stretch of water, you definitely are going to be piling some water up as well as the wave height. And so, unfortunately, the entrance where water flows into Lake Pontchartrain comes from the east, and that's where we're going to be seeing, and we have seen, obviously, some storm surge. Now, obviously, we talked about storm surge, the most serious storm surge right around the center of the storm, which radar is now picking up. So we'll be able to track this closely over the next number of hours. But along with this, out further to areas just to the north and east, we're going to be seeing a storm surge. That's what's happening in New Orleans. So unfortunately, it's not going to be a good situation. Let's move in a little bit closer here to New Orleans. You can see the lake. This is where we've been seeing the water move in from here. And we are going to be able to see radar over the next couple of probably hours, unfortunately, will be quite significant here. And the thing that we're really concerned about is we will probably see a widespread 3 to 5 inches of rain in this area. But as we will probably also see, we'll see some localized areas that will pick up probably much more than that. Some of these bands, as they move through here, they will continue to rain on the same spot over and over again. And you'll see probably where we could see a few hours with some very severe downpours, and that's going to be one of our biggest problems.
Okay, Rick, we're going to check right back with you. You know, earlier in the week when we talked to the Army Corps of Engineers, they said that they really didn't want more than about 5 or 6 inches, and now we see now in the Ninth Ward in New Orleans, they can barely take 1 or 2 inches if the levee's not being breached. They're calling this an overspill.
Yeah, it's major seepage. All right, we're going to go to Carol McKinley. She is live in Galveston, Texas. Actually, we're going to be getting her ready. You know, when there are breaking news situations, especially when you're dealing with high winds and storms, sometimes we have some technical problems. I think she's with us now, though, Carol.
As you can tell, we haven't hooked up our audio yet. While we get that hooked up, we do want to tell you that we're waiting on 3 briefings, one from Homeland Security, also one from the state of Louisiana, the state officials down there in FEMA, and also a press conference out of Galveston, the island of Galveston, the city of Galveston, all that in the next hour. So we'll bring any and all of that to you, what we find to be the most important of those 2 situations when they happen.
From Texas and Louisiana, most of the people in the hurricane's path have gotten out of town. Most of them have learned the lesson from Hurricane Katrina, but despite what they saw with Katrina, some people are still staying. There are a few remnants there. Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco said recently, quote, perhaps they should write their social security numbers on their arms with indelible ink. In other words, you're risking your life, as you're saying, but at this point, it's maybe too late to get out.
Well, you can imagine all the folks watching DaySide right now, Fox News Channel, who lived in the Ninth Ward. They've been moved around now maybe a couple of times, and they're watching Bill Hemmer's report, and we're going to have them watch him right now. With water back in the Ninth Ward, Bill. Bill,
yeah, Mike, you with me here?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay? I sure can, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Terrific, yeah. Trying to get these signals up here. Listen, you know, the rain bands are coming through here, so is the wind. So to our viewers, just be patient with us. Our worst fears have come true. That's the word from a member of the National Guard over in the Ninth Ward, and watching these waters that continue to rise and literally rush back into that neighborhood. This is an area that was absolutely ripped apart 3.5 weeks ago. We were there at daybreak earlier today, and when we were on the scene here, the water was about 6 inches high or even 8 inches high. At most, it was about 1 foot high. We were there about 45 minutes with our crew, and by the time we left, we literally had to take our car and move it up the road because the water was rising that fast. We saw two breaks, what appeared to be breaks anyway. Won't call them breaches yet because nothing is official about this. The Corps is telling that this is water that went over the top of these breaches, but the fact is this, and the facts don't lie on these pictures either. There is water flooding that street, whether it's a new break or whether it's going over the top of those levees, we do not know, but we do know this. In the 9th Ward and in St. Bernard Parish, the flooding is back, and this is a city that had been submerged in water for 3 weeks, flooded yet again. And you know, Mike and Juliet, they worked so hard down here to get the pumps working and to bring in temporary pumps to try and get the water out of here. They were almost close to 100% dry in the city of New Orleans. But after this setback today, and a major one at that, it is almost back to square one. If there was only a silver lining, well, the only thing I can point to on a note of optimism is that no one was left in the 9th Ward, so they will not have to go in with helicopters and pull people off roofs. It is such a sad and disheartening sight to see this neighborhood. Home after home destroyed. On entire city blocks, you might find one home that withstood the damage of that flood, but those homes will have to be torn down. There is no way anyone can even live in there. And all throughout this area, scattered around the ground and the street, the remnants of lives of those who left. And today we see the floodwaters again back here in the city of New Orleans, and Hurricane Rita is still hours away from landfall. Mike, Juliet?
Bill, thank you so much. No one is left because there really isn't anything to come back to. I mean, Bill was showing us earlier on that street, there's one house standing.
Yep. Speaking of houses standing, will the houses in Galveston, Texas be there by Monday morning? We've been talking about the seawall for the last 48 hours or so. Carol McKinley, what is the situation right now? When do you expect this in Galveston? Again, late tonight, early tomorrow morning?
Hey, Mike, Juliet. Yeah, I think so. Probably after midnight, we'll see the eye of the storm. If it's going to be touching Galveston, Houston area at all, it'll be here about then. So when things are dark, and then we'll wake up to whatever it did tomorrow morning. They're saying the winds could last for 16 hours here in this area of Texas. We just got some new video in. This is some pretty dramatic stuff. You talked about
And this is a Fox News Alert. Let's listen to Homeland Security Director Michael Chertoff in the news briefing.
I have with me Secretary Alphonso Jackson, who, as you know, is the Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, who will speak immediately after I do. Also, here is Donna Donnells, who is the Chief Processing Operations person at FEMA, who is going to be a subject matter expert that will be available to answer some of the really detailed questions about the housing program that we are announcing today. Let me, before I turn to the issue of this new housing program, which is designed to get transitional housing benefits in the hands of people quickly with a minimum of red tape while preserving accountability, let me talk about some of the steps we've taken working in support of our state and local partners to prepare for Hurricane Rita, which, as you know, has now entered the area of the northwest Gulf Coast. The hurricane remains a Category 4 storm, which is a very strong storm, and the current path projects landfall will be along the upper Texas coast in the vicinity of Port Arthur, Texas, at around 7 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday morning. I caution, however, the storm can still move a little bit one way or the other, so people should not take to the bank the idea that they know exactly where it's going to land. Well more than 1.5 million citizens have been evacuated from projected impact areas along Texas and the Louisiana Gulf Coast, including Galveston, Houston, and New Orleans. The Department of Defense, along with the United States Coast Guard and other emergency personnel, have been working in advance of the storm with state and local officials to airlift those who cannot evacuate themselves, including the elderly, disabled, and hospital patients. At this time, Admiral Larry Harris from the United States Coast Guard is on the scene as Principal Federal Officer.
Again, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Michael Chertoff, announcing some details, and just about to speak, we're going to tape this for you. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Alphonso Jackson about to announce how they're going to help the government, how the federal government is going to help some of Katrina's victims and now possibly some of Rita's survivors.
Yeah, there are a couple other news conferences that are scheduled in the next few minutes. In Baton Rouge, there's going to be a FEMA news conference. Louisiana state officials will be there talking about what's happening there. Also in Galveston, there's going to be a news conference, and we'll carry those if they do break some news for us.
Yeah, Secretary Kurt out there was just mentioning Port Arthur, Texas. A lot of people now, Port Arthur, Texas, on the list of a lot of people, especially weathercasters, talking about how maybe the storm is really headed toward that area of Texas, right on the border of Texas and Louisiana. You know, Lake Charles is nearby, and that's where our Rick Leventhal is standing by. Rick.
Mike, Juliet, yeah, we're in Lake Charles, about 60 miles from the Texas border. This is a town of about 75,000 in the downtown area, but about 200,000 in the metropolitan area, a town that, according to one police officer who's been here 24 years, he can never remember the town ever evacuating before, but it's virtually empty now as everyone got out as Rita was approaching. We can give you a look at the scene here. We have a shipping channel right next to us, the Calcasieu Ship Channel, and docks there. We have shrimp boats, tugboats, barges, and some other ships that have been tied up 4 across in anticipation of the storm surge. It could be up to 6 feet, we're told, in this part of the ship channel, which is at least 30 or 40 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. We can see to the right there the I-10 overpass. This is a major interstate here across the state of Louisiana and into Texas as well. We came this way this morning on I-10, and believe it or not, it was wide open, completely empty. And then off on the distance there, you see some of the refineries and chemical plants that you've been hearing so much about. They're all over the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana. They account for a major percentage, more than 25% of the oil refining capability of the United States. And a lot of people are worried that gas prices could go up if these things are damaged. Again, we are in Lake Charles. We went into town earlier today. We talked to some police down there. We saw some evacuees leaving, some of the last evacuees to leave. The police told us that they're going to bunker down in an old courthouse there and wait for this thing to blow through and then start seeing where their assets are needed. But they do say that they have already evacuated the jail. They evacuated most of the hospitals. There's one hospital, Memorial Hospital, that still has some patients, but they are clearly ready for this storm here in this part of the world there. Mike and Juliet.
All right, Rick Leventhal in the path of Hurricane Rita. Thanks, Rick.
There is other news from around the world. Our Gretchen Carlson has it in the newsroom. Gretchen.
Hello, Juliet and Mike. President Bush will fly to Texas later on today and then to Colorado Springs. Now, he plans to follow the approach of Hurricane Rita from the U.S. Northern Command. The White House says the trip will give the president an opportunity to assess whether the U.S. military should play a bigger role in natural disasters. Rita is turning toward the Texas and Louisiana coast, as you know by now, with winds up to 135 miles an hour. The hurricane is centered about 220 miles southeast of Galveston, Texas. The Category 4 storm is expected to make landfall near Port Arthur tomorrow. That's in Texas, as a strong Category 3 tomorrow morning. Forecasters warn there could be a storm surge of 15 to 20 feet. And near Dallas, a packed highway is open again after an evacuation tragedy. A bus carrying 44 people from a nursing home somehow caught fire and exploded on Interstate 45. 24 people are believed to be dead in this accident. Water is filling up parts of New Orleans again. A National Guard officer says there are 3 significant breaches in city levees. In the 9th Ward, water is gushing over a patched levee and flooding the low-lying neighborhood that was abandoned after flooding from Hurricane Katrina. I'm Gretchen Carlson. Stay with Fox for continuing coverage of Hurricane Rita. And now, of course, it's back to Juliet and Mike.
Thanks very much, Gretchen. Up next, a brush fire, as Gretchen was telling you, on a Dallas highway, killing at least 24 senior citizens. We have a special report from Texas. And people trying to evacuate from Texas facing 100-mile backup. Some are even turning around. They're going home. We have the best ways out. We're going to give you the scoop on transportation in that area coming up on Fox News Channel on DaySide.
This is one way to find out what your home is worth. Or simply go to housevalues.com. Find out what your home is worth free at housevalues.com. For your free home value report, go to housevalues.com.
Hey, toilet here. Please stop the running. Not just the old handle jiggle. The oldest trick in the book.
Don't tighten your screw up too tight or you'll crack the porcelain.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. And don't forget to fix that fan.
Ace, the helpful place. Congress chartered Freddie Mac 35 years ago to make mortgage money available so lenders can make more home loans. Our mission, help keep mortgage rates stable and low. It's working. Freddie Mac has helped over 44 million families own their own home. It's the most important investment millions of Americans ever make. Some people call it a nest egg. Most people just call it home. Freddie Mac. We make home possible.
If you have indoor or outdoor allergies, ask your doctor about something different. Singulair. While many allergy medicines block histamine, Singulair works differently by blocking leukotrienes, an underlying cause of allergy symptoms. And Singulair is now approved to help relieve both indoor and outdoor allergy symptoms for a full 24 hours. Side effects are generally mild and vary by age and may include headaches, ear infections, sore throat, and upper respiratory infections. Singulair, a different way to treat indoor and outdoor allergies.
My name is Melanie Howe, and my husband John was killed in Iraq 7 months ago.
My name is Elaine Johnson, and my son Darius died in Iraq in 2003. He was on his way home.
My name is Lynn Braddock, and my son Travis was killed in Iraq 2 years ago. He meant the world to me.
Mr. President, I lost my husband, and now I'm asking you, how many more soldiers have to die for your mistake?
You lied to us. Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11.
This war was a terrible mistake, and we're paying for it every day.
My husband never got to hold his baby. What will I tell our son his father died for?
Mr. President, we all love our country. We all support our troops.
But don't sacrifice the lives of our loved ones for your mistake.
Welcome back to DaySide. When I woke up this morning, I turned on Fox News Channel and I saw the video of this bus crash. It's just a horrifying scene.
Horrific.
There were, it was a bus carrying elderly evacuees, Hurricane Rita evacuees, 17 miles southeast of downtown Dallas. The bus catches fire. There may have been a problem with the brakes, and all sorts of things go wrong after that.
These were 38 evacuees and 6 helpers, basically what they call team members on the bus. And they're from the Brighton Garden Nursing Home in Bel Air, Texas. This is a suburb of Houston, Texas. And like Juliet said, there on Highway 45, getting out just like they're supposed to do. Everything really under control. And on I-45 in Wilmer, Texas, just outside of Dallas, apparently a problem with brakes, right? And it sparked.
The brakes may have caught fire, and it starts sparking. It catches on fire because people are hooked up to oxygen.
They have their personal oxygen tanks next to their bodies, and I saw some of them are holding them right next to them on the bus, and the sparks from the brakes sparked an explosion, and that bus went up.
Explosion after explosion after explosion.
And the bus, just a shell. Now, Homeland Security and personnel and the Texas Highway Patrol took the bus out of there. They've already moved it off Highway 45 because of the evacuees. They want the traffic community to flow. So I'm afraid they had to move it off with some of the bodies still in the bus, and the investigation is being done off to the side of the road.
Yeah, but you saw that video. I mean, it was a show. Once they got the fire out, it's just a horrifying story. All right.
With evacuees stuck in massive traffic jams in Texas, how do people get out of harm's way?
That's a very good question. Judy Curtis is the spokesperson for the Texas Department of Transportation, and she joined us now. Judy, just give us an update on how things are going. The evacuation is going right now in Texas.
It's going a lot smoother than it had been. We understand that I-45 and I-10 goes west, I-45 goes north for Dallas, are pretty much at speed limit, close to it. I-69, which is where the Beaumont evacuees are traveling, has been converted to all one way in both directions for major portions of that road. We do understand that Highway 59 that also leads Houston to the left and is a bit congested right now, but people are moving and they are getting out of harm's way, which is very important to us.
Hey, Judy, real quickly, guys in the control room, let's punch up 1601, which is the map, to get a better idea of what Judy is talking about here. Because a lot of folks yesterday were writing and saying, okay, everybody's taking 45 north. Why can't we go west on 10? Or even better, is now we think the storm is going to move kind of north and east. How about take Highway 59 southwest to like Brownsville? Is that okay?
Well, we're asking people to follow the instructions of local officials, and I think local officials were advising people to move north and not south. So 59 is right now congested. Alternate routes are there, but they're congested. But no, again, we advise them to listen to their local officials and do what they say.
And Judy, just very quickly, there were fuel supply issues. People were running out of gas because they were caught in lines and lines of traffic and congestion. Any problems with that right now? Are people getting their gas and getting out of town okay?
Well, we're still working on that issue. We understand that, again, yes, there are people stranded, but we have trucks going out for rescue patrols and tankers going out to reach those people. In addition, we have opened up about 10 of our maintenance yards throughout the Houston area and Beaumont area to allow people to come in and get some gasoline, at least enough to get them, again, out of harm's way.
So, Judy, if you're in Port Arthur, which seems to be where the storm is going, how do you get out of there? Is it Highway 69?
It's 69, yes.
Okay.
I'm heading north.
All right, Judy, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Galveston, Texas was nearly wiped out in the worst natural disaster in U.S. history way back in 1900. Coming up, man versus Mother Nature. Will Galveston's seawall withstand Hurricane Rita?
And by the way, you're looking at live pictures of New Orleans. This is the tape, sorry, this is the seawall, the levee.
We're going to see if that seawall will hold up, what the situation is right now. And now you're looking at the 9th Ward in New Orleans. Yes, the water is back in New Orleans.
Dust, dander, and now smog and ozone too. Exclusively from Sharper Image, the Ionic Breeze Silent Air Purifier with Ozone Guard that can actually convert smog and ozone into oxygen. Cleaning and circulating your air with no fans, no filters, silently. America's most trusted brand of air purifier introduces revolutionary new technology. Sharper Image, working with the Engelhard Corporation, inventors of the modern catalytic converter, introduces Ozone Guard with Premier Catalyst, recognized by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency as a newer way to reduce air pollution. In fact, the more polluted the incoming air, the more oxygen it helps generate. The Ionic Breeze charges incoming air and contaminants attached to the collection grid. Then the air passes through an additional cleaning stage in the new Ozone Guard grill with Premier Catalyst coating that instantly converts a significant portion of smog and ozone into pure oxygen. Then cleaner, fresher air is accelerated back into the room. The Ionic Breeze has earned the seal of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America because it's been proven to reduce airborne allergens. Don't be confused with our noisy competitors. Even if they look the same, they don't have Ozone Guard. Only the Ionic Breeze has Ozone Guard to help instantly convert smog and ozone into oxygen.
I've tried every air purifier on the market today, and there's only one that meets everyone's needs, and that's the Ionic Breeze.
Order today and we'll give you a $69 bathroom Ionic Breeze and a $39 car Ionic Breeze. Try the Ionic Breeze with Ozone Guard for 2 months, and if you don't love it, send it back. But keep the bathroom and the car Ionic Breezes. Over a $100 value as a free gift. Call now and get a free 5-year warranty and ask about free shipping.
To order, call 1-800-640-8100. That's 1-800-640-8100. Call now.
If you're among the many individuals and businesses that owe thousands of dollars to the IRS, please listen carefully to this special announcement.
Because of new tax legislation, you can now settle your IRS tax debt once and for all and qualify for enormous savings. Innovative Tax Relief can settle your debt for a fraction of what you owe, while at the same time putting a stop to aggressive and annoying collection efforts. Our tax experts can help remove levies, liens, or garnishments, and you may even recover lost penalties and interest. The specialists at Innovative Tax Relief have helped thousands of businesses and individuals just like you eliminate their debt and achieve the financial freedom they deserve. There has never been a better time to settle your tax debt than right now.
If you owe the IRS $10,000 or more, let Innovative Tax Relief put an end to your tax nightmare and put you back on the right track. Innovative Tax Relief. Proven results.
Welcome back to DaySide. You're looking at live pictures. These are live pictures of New Orleans, and you can see the problems that they had after Katrina are going to continue to be problems right now during Rita and most likely right after Rita. This is the levee. It looks like it's having some problems there, obviously.
We've talked about it all week long. Will they hold the temporary levees hold? They're trying like crazy to get them to withstand the pressure behind them before Rita gets there. But Rita is barely just touching southern Louisiana and New Orleans, and look what already has happened to the Ninth Ward. We have our eye on it.
Yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers installed 60-foot-long metal barriers across many of the canals to protect them against these storm surges. And we're going to continue to follow that
What
for
are you
you.
doing?
Speaking of,
A great job. You're talking about the 17th Street Canal, putting those steel barriers in, and they're racing against the clock now, continuing at this hour. Well, turning out to Galveston, Texas.
it's a storm surge from Rita. If there is one, it could put the city's seawall to its biggest test. And this is a seawall that is made of concrete. It was built in the early 1900s after that horrible hurricane. Joining us right now on the phone from Houston, Texas is Colonel Steve Stein, who is the district engineer and commander of the Galveston District for the Army Corps of Engineers. Colonel, thanks very much for joining us today. At this point, how do you think the seawall is going to hold up?
Well, the Galveston seawall is certainly prepared to withstand the impact of Hurricane Rita. The wall itself is 17 feet high, and right now the projected storm surge in Galveston is about 7 feet. So I feel quite comfortable concerning the Galveston seawall.
Okay, if you're comfortable with that, let's move over to Port Arthur then, up to the north and east of you. Does that have a levee system, Port Arthur?
The Port Arthur area is protected by a hurricane flood levee. There's about 76 square miles in Port Arthur in the town and complex that surrounds Port Arthur, and it is largely surrounded by a earthen levee that extends some 30 miles. There's a substantial difference there in that the levee system in Port Arthur is inland. It doesn't sit right on the beach like Galveston.
There's a buffer zone, and there are apparently pumps that can handle tremendous amounts of water if that's the case. But here's a big problem. This is an area, it's an industrial city, mainly petrochemical. So what happens if this area is flooded?
We would work with the local officials and state officials to dewater Port Arthur. The good news is that the levee system in Port Arthur doesn't normally have water behind it like what we have in New Orleans or the Mississippi and the canal system that goes through town. So once the storm surge recedes from Hurricane Rita, there is no more water to come into the levee system. So there are a number of pumps that can handle, in total, about 5 million gallons per minute that would dewater Port Arthur.
But Colonel, again, what kind of surge can the levee system in Port Arthur take?
It was designed to withstand a Category 4 hurricane.
Okay. So it's probably going to come ashore at 3, we hope, and it won't be a 4. Colonel, thank you for the information about Port Arthur, because we're getting new information about that city, and as we're kind of tracking the storm to that direction now. Thank you, Colonel.
Speaking of Colonel, we have Colonel David Hunt joining us today. You know, you worked with FEMA for a while. You did some defense work. You didn't work in this area, but you're familiar with what's going on there right now. What is it?
Yeah, United States. What's going on right now is an amazing reaction by, for example, the Navy. The Navy and about 8 ships is actually sitting behind this hurricane, and it's coming in right behind it. So with everybody here, Marines and helicopters, so they're going to arrive when the storm stops. And 24, 48 hours, there'll be 8 or 9 Navy ships sitting right in front of Galveston.
So these are the same ships that were helping with Katrina, like it's Tortuga and Comfort, the hospital ships?
Yes, and they're backing those up, though, with others.
And then coming behind it.
Absolutely. They're staying right behind the storm. Right now, you also got 8,000 National Guard guys already there with satellite radio. So, and they're sitting up in high buildings. So that they can have problems with New Orleans. They had no communications. Now they're going to have it.
So, I was going to say, what lessons did they learn from Hurricane Katrina?
Yeah, this ain't Louisiana. Texas has done a very, very good job with this. The military's done a very good job. State police and Galveston there.
82nd Airborne, what will their job be?
Right now, they help with research, with rescue, communications, logistics. Not a police role at all.
Okay. Yeah. When we talk about the National Guard, how do you keep them out of harm's way? Because if they're hurt in Rita's, winds and rain, they can't help anybody. So what do you take them north?
No, they got high ground. And within some of you have to put right in the middle of this so you have instant communication.
Oh, really? And ride it out?
Absolutely. On a high ground with good radio. They're all good guys. And they don't mind being in harm's way. These Army, Navy, and Air Force guys actually kind of like it. They do. They like
I believe it.
They like it.
Yeah.
That's what they joined up for.
It is kind of like combat.
Just wind and water.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, you got 2 fights going on. This is 2 battles. And anyone in the military knows what I'm talking about. They got a battle in New Orleans, and they got a battle in Texas. That's hard. That's tough stuff.
We're learning now, you think?
Absolutely. It's a much better job. It's not Louisiana. This is a much better job.
Okay.
Colonel, thank you very much, sir. We are tracking the hurricane, coming up an update on where and when it's going to be making landfall. And we have seen what a hurricane can do, obviously the Katrina. What would happen to our nuclear power plants if they took a hit? There are a couple down in that area. We're going to give you the scoop on that. That's ahead on DaySide. Be right back.
For years, E-Trade stood outside, throwing stones at the financial establishment. Now that we've matured and offer everything from trading to banking, we're doing it from inside. Be extraordinary at etrade.com.
Tylenol Rapid Release Gel. Gel caps with specially designed holes to release powerful medicine even faster than before.
Have a good day. See you tonight.
Okay.
Introducing the all-new Suzuki Grand Vitara. You want more out of life? We're giving you the green light.
Today, a soldier sees a snapshot of the terrain. A pilot, an image of the airspace. The commander, a view of the mission. But they're all part of a bigger picture. That's why Boeing is helping create a remarkable network to gather and analyze data from every source, then deliver the right information instantly. So the bigger picture is a safer world. Boeing, forever new frontier.
He's the computer science professor from Iowa. He's slightly distracted. And this is Take On Orbit, the game that pits other travel services against Orbitz.com. Today's contestants need a hotel in Hawaii for under $100 with a golf course.
Hotel reservation?
Yes. Orbitz makes it easy to find the right hotel at a great price. Log on to OrbitGames.com for your chance to be a daily winner of free travel. Visit OrbitGames.com today. Here's big news on term life insurance. Now you can get the protection your family needs from one of the nation's most respected insurers at great rates. Matrix Direct now offers quality coverage from American General Life, a highly rated insurer with over 75 years of experience. A 40-year-old man can get $250,000 policy for less than $14 a month. A 40-year-old woman can get that same coverage for less than $12 a month. This is insurance you can depend on from American General Life, one of the nation's strongest insurance companies. American General Life will be there when you need protection most. Call now for your free quote on quality term life insurance. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation.
Call Matrix Direct now for your free quote. Call 1-800-239-5215. It only takes 5 minutes to get a free quote. That's 1-800-239-5215. Or visit AIGTermLife.com.
Hey, welcome back. This is a really cool video. We got some stuff to show you. This is the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron. They're better known as the Hurricane Hunters. They go into storms and they basically fly in through the eye wall. They just bust through the eye wall. They actually went into Hurricane Rita. They're out of Dobbins Air Reserve Base. 6 reservists. They fly into the belly of the hurricane.
Yeah, they're there to check the temperature and the pressure, barometric pressure, wind speeds and all that. That's why they, actually penetrate the eye wall, and this one is really big. One of the guys in there, Major Mike Shannon, says it's the most impressive eye wall he has ever seen. He's been doing it for years. You know how this whole thing started?
Impressive eye wall. Does that mean just really tough and hard to get to?
So intense and difficult to penetrate. Apparently, this started back in 1944 as a dare between Army Air Corps pilots. They were all sitting around, and there was a hurricane.
Through a tropical storm.
That's exactly what happened in 1944. So they got in the plane, probably a version of the C-130, which is what they use now, and flew into a hurricane. They've been doing it ever since. And some great information out of those planes.
Yeah, we wanted to bring you that video because we thought it was pretty cool. Meantime, there are a lot of folks who wanted to get out. We had my friend Seema on yesterday. She flew out of Houston and was having some major troubles with the airline, just dealing with all that. Well, as you can imagine, there are a lot of people that are trying to fly out at the last minute, and they're dealing, of course, with not only the lines and the surly ticket agents.
Oh, look at this. There's Bush Airport in Houston, Texas. And yesterday...
Are they going to get any discounts?
No. Well, on Continental Airlines' website, on their website at Continental yesterday, there was a coach ticket from Houston to Dulles in D.C. is $2,000.
Well, here's the thing, though. Well, but it was up to $2,000.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you can go on and you can find those seats even when it's 4 weeks out.
Yeah.
So, you know,
well, we checked
you would think that they would discount all the seats, wouldn't you?
You would think, but there just are no seats. We checked with Orbitz before we come on the air. No seats available. In fact, Orbitz is saying, you got to contact the airline because we're not handling this.
Did you hear about this, though? A bunch of security screeners didn't show up for work. They said that the TSA said it's going to be flying on 155 screeners from other cities to go and fill the gap left by these guys that just didn't show up for work.
What a mess. Oh, we've had some emails about, aren't there nuclear power plants in that region yet?
Right.
There's 2 on the coast of Texas and 2 over in the neighboring state of Louisiana on the coast. And we talked to one of the safety folks over at one of those plants, safety assurance project manager. His name is Mark Burnett, and he's the manager of a plant there. Mark Burnett, can you believe that? Not the guy from Survivor. In Wadsworth, Texas, there is a plant. It's 12 miles inland and 28 feet above sea level.
Yeah, this guy says if you're going to be stuck in a hurricane, the best place to be is to be in a nuclear power plant. Now, I mean, he works for the power plant.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think I saw that. He says it's like Fort Knox.
Yeah.
It's built to withstand a Category 5. So, you know.
The safest place in Texas, Louisiana, he called it.
They're going to shut it down. They say they'll shut it down 7 hours before the hurricane is supposed to be hitting. But right now, as of now, the plants are running and storm crews are on site.
Hey, folks around the country also emailing saying, what can we do? Well, besides giving to the Red Cross and other charities helping Katrina victims and now probably Rita survivors, you can go to a movie tonight and actually give money to the cause.
The movie is called Roll Bounce. It actually does open today. 10% of Fox Searchlight. It's a Fox Searchlight film, and of course that's Big Daddy Fox. 10% of the opening weekend box office proceeds for this film will be donated to the Operation USA for Hurricane Katrina disaster.
That's cool.
Really cool.
Great.
So Bow Wow,
Yeah.
formerly known as Royal Bow Wow.
It's supposed to, and it's a comedy, by the way, and it's a coming-of-age
70s
comedy.
inspired comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're familiar with it.
Well, that's one way to help. That's right. Back in the 70s, I was a lot.
Serious stuff now. Ed Rappaport is the deputy director of the National Hurricane Center in Miami, and he's giving us the latest on what's happening there.
Ed.
Ed, what's the latest?
The latest is that the hurricane is now centered about 200 miles from the coast and moving at about 10 miles an hour. So we do the division, we get about 20 hours, maybe a little bit less now till landfall. The good news is that the weakening trend that started yesterday has continued. Rita's down now to borderline Category 4, Category 3 hurricane. And in fact, you see over my shoulder in the satellite imagery that the eye is a little less distinct. I think we're seeing some further weakening. So landfall, Category 3, and if we're lucky, maybe a little bit below that strength.
We know that it took that turn to the right, Ed, but we do have some folks who are emailing us and saying, is it possible that it could swerve back to the left?
Yeah, in fact, I think what it did do yesterday was just a slight deviation or wobble to the right. The forecast track for the last 24 hours or so has been pretty much the same with the landfall on the upper Texas coast, probably just east of Galveston and Houston. But you're right, there can be some of these changes at the last minute, and a deviation just 50 miles back to the left would bring the strongest winds and the highest storm surge into the Galveston-Houston area. If the forecast is perfect, then the worst of the weather is going to be farther to the east from Port Arthur, Beaumont, Lake Charles region.
Yeah, Ed, isn't that what Katrina did overnight, that last night? It jogged about 50 miles to the east. So the cedar band on the top of the storm, the top of Rita, that's already starting to touch southern Louisiana and New Orleans. What are you expecting for New Orleans at about 3 o'clock tomorrow morning?
Well, it looks like, and we'll switch now to a different loop here, that they're going to have a continuation of showers and thunderstorms. Here's the coast of Louisiana. Here's New Orleans with Lake Pontchartrain just to the north. You'll see the center of the hurricane is almost 300 miles away, but because it's so big, there are a lot of these rain bands that you've been watching come ashore with squalls, and the squalls are bringing an east wind, and that's what's piling up the water on the order of 4 or 5 feet, it would appear to be the maximum. Probably around midnight tonight will be the highest of that surge there, and also high tide.
But Ed, the bottom line is you think this, once it does reach land tonight, it will be borderline Category 3 or 4?
No, at the moment it's still in Category 3 and 4, but it's weakening. So it'll be Category 3. If we're lucky, it'll drop down a little bit below that, maybe even Category 2. But even so, we're going to have a strong storm surge and winds coming to shore.
Okay, Ed, we'll check back with you. Fighting back the water, that's what they're doing in New Orleans, but losing the battle apparently at this hour in some parts of the city. The city, yes, and again, Ninth Ward taking on water in the Crescent City.
For years, E-Trade stood outside, throwing stones at the financial establishment. Now that we've matured and offer everything from trading to banking, we're doing it from inside. Be extraordinary at E-Trade.com.
Hair color a little dull? Take 10 minutes a month and recharge it with Natural Instinct. In 10 minutes, your color looks even healthier and shinier than before you colored it. 10 minutes a month and you're shining all year. Natural Instinct from Clairol.
These gardens have the most exquisite light. Oh, he loves you.
Go where you want with Drive-Free at Avis.
You know this guy has 50,000 pounds of water pressure? 60,500, son!
Now rent 3 times and get a free weekend on us. Find our lowest prices at Avis.com. If you have indoor or outdoor allergies, ask your doctor about something different. Singulair. While many allergy medicines block histamine, Singulair works differently by blocking leukotriene, an underlying cause of allergy symptoms. And Singulair is now approved to help relieve both indoor and outdoor allergy symptoms for a full 24 hours. Side effects are generally mild and vary by age and may include headache, ear infection, sore throat, and upper respiratory infections. Singulair, a different way to treat indoor and outdoor allergies. What cooks like butter, spreads like butter, and has a fresh dairy taste like butter, without the cholesterol and high saturated fat? Smart Balance Buttery Spread. Smart Balance just received another Best Taste Award and is endorsed by professional chefs. It's the only spread with a patented balance of fat to help increase HDL's good cholesterol and avoids trans fat naturally, not artificially as some spreads do. Smart Balance. You're going to love that buttery taste.
Well, let's hope that's not the story of our trip to Moscow.
Hey, I got smarter since I quit hockey. I switched to Vonage. You can make unlimited calls to U.S., Canada, Puerto Rico, all for just $24.99 a month. That's incredible.
Got high-speed internet? Call 877-486-EXPO. Get 1 month free. Offer also available online and at these fine retailers.
Glad to see hockey recently got smarter too.
Vonage, the leader in internet phone service.
Hey, toilet here. Please stop the running. No, not just the old handle jiggle. The oldest trick in the book. Still running. Running like a guy who runs a lot.
And verify
Tim,
that the amount being
you got a broken toilet on line 2? Please pick up.
And then remove all the water from the tank. Don't tighten the screw too tight or you'll crack the porcelain. Okay.
Thanks, Tim. And don't forget to fix that chair.
Ace, the helpful plan.
Let's see what's happening in Houston. It looks like almost absolutely nothing, which is a good picture. A few cars left on the highways.
What highway are we looking at right now in our control room, if you can tell us?
I would bet that's 10.
Yeah, most likely. But look at that. It is just deserted. And the reports are the city itself is just...
Oh, this is 45 now.
Okay.
Oh, we're jumping around to different cameras for traffic cameras. There's 45. Remember that yesterday, Juliet? Mm-hmm.
When it was, just jam-packed. Well, the problem was that they weren't opening all those roads up.
Yeah.
And people were really having a hard time getting out of there. They ended up turning around and going home.
Contraflow. There's a word that we've used during the coverage, right?
Yes.
That I didn't know before. Contraflow.
You know all about contraband, but...
You ever been to Houston, Texas? You know about Highway 10 that cuts through the city, and then that big loop, 610? It seems like it's always crowded in Houston.
Well, not today. All right, let's get back. Bill Hammer has been covering what's been going on in New Orleans with those levees, and it's been a real problem, and it continues to be one. Bill, what's the latest there?
Yeah, hey, Juliet, here's what we understand right now in the 9th Ward District here of New Orleans. This is a place that right now is taking on water by the minute. We were there about 8 o'clock this morning back on the East Coast, New York time anyway, and we could see these huge gaps in the breaches that had been made 3.5 weeks ago. Both of these gaps more than 30 feet in length, and waterfalls literally pouring back down into that district. Moments ago in Washington, Michael Chertoff, the head of Homeland Security, He is now suggesting that not only is the water going over this wall, but it's also going through it in two different places, which means there could be two more breaks, new breaks, different breaches in that canal along the Industrial Street Canal. That's going into the 9th Ward. Now, we were able to be there on hand. We're able to put a live camera there up there so our viewers can see it across the country. But one thing we cannot show at this point is what's happening in St. Bernard Parish. If you look at a map, you can see the 9th Street Ward on the east side of New Orleans, and then St. Bernard Parish is further east and to the south. We understand now from the sheriff, about an hour ago, he was quoted as saying that if no one is out of St. Bernard Parish in 5 to 10 minutes, the only way you will be able to get out is by boat, which gives us a pretty good indication that it is flooding also in St. Bernard. All that water goes downhill in those low-lying areas of Louisiana here in New Orleans. The flood waters that they're getting in the 9th Ward also are going down into St. Bernard as well. What seems to be holding for the moment is the 17th Street Canal, but that's on the other side of the city, on the west side of the city. But as I say that, the indications over there is that the water continues to rise. They had built the wall back up along that canal, hoping to get about 5 more feet in height, but they simply ran out of time. If the waters continue to rise, and one can anticipate that they will, because this hurricane is still in the very early stages, that the 17th Street Canal is something we're going to have to keep a very close eye on also. These neighborhoods, Juliet, they've been flooded out for 3.5 weeks. They were submerged and drowned in water. All that toxic water and sewage that we talked about, they were dry a couple days ago, and now they're all filled back up with the water from Rita and not Katrina. Juliet, Mike?
Bill and Henry, thank you very much. And with the latest.
Rising any further, latest gauge readings out in Lake Bourne at the Wrigley area had dropped about 1.5 feet in the last hour. We hope it's good news because as the storm continues to move further to the west, the direction of the wind should become more southerly and stop pushing the water up into that direction. That's the only area where we have any significant overflow. There are some reports of overflow on the other side of the Industrial Canal. There was a smaller breach in that area, shorter in length, and I would suspect, although we haven't been able to lay our eyes on it because of access, I would suspect that there's probably some water seeping through that area as well. So at this point, I can answer questions.
Where's that smaller breach we're talking about?
It's on the northern end of the Industrial Canal, the IHMC lock portion of the Industrial Canal. On the west bank.
How much water is dumped through there? How much is going through there?
I don't know. We haven't been able to get to see it. Don't have any access to it, so I just heard that it was somebody had said that there was some seepage in there. There appears to be some water accumulating in that residential area adjacent to that. So.
What has it been used to fill the gas, and how high was it? Is it at this point?
Well, what was used to fill the gap was a combination of sandbags and crushed stone and soil and heavy gravel that was just dumped in place to compact it to try to form a fairly stable dam in that area.
Do you know when that was done, when the work on that levee had been done? Was it just a couple days prior to
It was within the last 2 weeks, certainly. So I think it was one of the earlier ones that we did. So it's more than a couple days. Probably it's been in place nearly a week.
Do you have any measurements on how much water has flowed into the 9th Ward?
No, we don't. I do know one other thing I'll add. Thanks for reminding me of that. We have been in contact with the levee board in that area. They're prepared to turn on the pumps. I believe it's pump station 1 and 6 in the Lake Bourne levee board area. The water is traveling through the canals to get to that area. Yes, there's not sufficient water there for them to turn the pumps, but they will be able to turn those pumps on and pump it out pretty rapidly. Those two pumps, the pumping stations, each have a capacity of about 1,000 cubic feet per second.
When do they plan on turning those on?
Well, as soon as the water gets there, it takes a little while. So the report I had was probably about 35, 40 minutes ago. They may have them on now, so they will within a short period of time.
There have been reports of 3 new breaches in the canal. Can you address that at all?
I asked that. I heard the same rumors were rolling around. We don't have any information on that. The lake level stage is only about 4 feet. It is not nearly as high as it is in the industrial canal. The anticipation is that there won't be any problems there because the closures we put across the canals, the 17th Street and London Ave canals, is about 10 to 12 feet high. So a 4-foot lake stage did not cause any threat to that area.
Again, you had one small breach on the west bank of the industrial canal.
Well, it was reported suspected breach. I haven't seen it.
And you have one overtopping.
We have one. Well, in both cases, there were overtopping seepage. Let me just try to make a clarification on why people are sensitive to breach versus overtopping. A breach implies it's massive hole or gap in the levee that would let the total amount of water through. Where overtopping is where water's going over the top, and it may in fact be a foot or 2 deep, but it's not the same as taking out the whole section in a breach. And it's just trying to make sure that we don't get things in the wrong order of magnitude.
So both are overtopping?
As far as I know, I really don't have any details on the one on the west, only that it was reported that there was seepage or overtopping in that one. The one on the east bank of the industrial canal, we've had people down there on the ground actually looking at it, and so we know what the condition is there.
You know how deep the water is there?
No, I don't.
The DOT said it's more than waist deep. That's a fair assessment there.
The amount that's going over, the amount that's accumulating down below.
What's already down there?
I would assume that it is at least waist deep. I also heard a report that it was 5 foot deep, so I don't know exactly what it is.
What is the 7.8 figure?
7.8 is what the gauge height of the water level was in the industrial canal. So that's just, reference to mean sea level.
How big was the wall? It's not the whole bit. 6 feet? Is that so it went over?
Well, it's the way the bank is there. The bank is relatively high in that area, and we only put a couple feet of fill in there on top of where it was. So there's probably no more than 2 feet of water running over that bank.
Are you doing anything, or just waiting for the wind to shift?
Well, we certainly would have done some things to get it in there, but we couldn't get any access in there with any trucks with gravel in them. The wind was blowing too hard to transport any sandbags using air transport like we did with the other areas. So we tried, but the wind was in excess of 40-mile-an-hour gusts, and they couldn't fly with helicopters at that point.
It's just a matter of waiting it out at this point?
Yes, it is.
Right now in terms of the storm, is the worst yet to come? Are we hitting the worst part right now? Do you have any estimation of how extensive this could be, and are there any other trouble spots you guys are worried about?
We're keeping an eye on every place, where we had any weaknesses in there. We had this area of concern. There was an area also in far eastern St. Bernard Parish where we repaired the interior levee. We're keeping our eyes on that, and obviously on the canals. So, as of right now, the canals seem to be very stable, and also no problem in the southern portion.
All right, this is a Fox News alert. Hurricane Rita is now a Category 3 hurricane, so it has decreased in strength, which is very, very good news. And it continues to look like it's going to be heading in that direction according to the National Hurricane Center.
And they predicted just about 20 minutes ago here on DaySide, Ed Rappaport at the National Hurricane Center said that he expected it to go from a 4 to a 3. So very dangerous.
Interesting news conference there.
Yeah, the spokesperson there for the Army Corps of Engineers in New Orleans was saying that he was getting reports of the levee overspilling. He didn't want to use the word breach because that meant a massive spillage of water. But we've had shots of, especially Bill Henry's been reporting on this all morning, of the canal.
Yeah, Bill Henry said
more than
it's
just
like
an
waterfalls coming over.
The Ninth Ward is flooding again, in other words.
Yeah, and this is a shot of New Orleans, I believe, and yeah, that is New Orleans. All right. right, let's move on to some other stuff. Neil Cavuto is joining us right now.
Good to have you here.
Scoop on the economic impact and what's happening. Everybody's talking about gas, and that's obviously going to be a big problem.
Well, it's up, and it's going to continue going up for a little while. I think today, for example, we've seen oil and energy prices subside, guys, but the feeling seems to be that this is a supply disruption. In other words, it's not just that the refineries are temporarily shut down, but supply that is out there can't move from there.
Yeah, I'm calling it the Walmart effect. In other words, if the ports are shut down, the ships don't come in, you don't offload them onto trucks, the trucks don't move, the gasoline is so expensive for the truckers. How long will that be in effect? Will it take us through the end of the year?
Well, the problem for that region is you could see serious supply disruptions. We've heard stories, I mean, you guys have reported in and around Texas where people go to gas stations and there was no gas to be found. That's a bigger worry for the time being, but largely for that region, not a national issue. But I think when everyone is telling you we're going to look at $4 or $5 gasoline for as long and as far as we can see, you should pause a little bit. I think a little bit of crepe hanging has gone into this and a bit too much.
So one expert I read said that this is going to be a shock to the economy, putting diesel, heating oil prices up 50% in a matter of days. You don't think that's going to happen?
Well, I think it's clear that year over year we are up a lot from where we were. I mean, let's face it, heating oil prices, natural gas prices, all of these had already doubled effectively from where they were a year ago before Katrina, before Rita. So they go up and they will be up, and people will be looking at very high heating bills.
So you're scrambling to put your little budget together for this fall as you're watching the coverage here. How high could with a heating oil go?
Well, I think it's fair to say it's going to be a costly winter.
Yeah.
The question is, people need to understand that heating oil energy contracts are traded as if they're stocks. And stocks trade based on greed and fear. And the fear seems to be in the markets that they'll go prohibitively higher. But a lot of those perceptions are simply unwound when people realize they got ahead of themselves because of a hurricane, because of 2 hurricanes, which I think will happen. In other words, things will dissipate.
It's almost October. We'll be coming around to Christmas anytime. What are we going to see? Shoppers, retailers, is it going to affect
Well, that to me, guys, is the bigger story here. Long after all of this subsides, the fact of the matter is I've been talking to a lot of CEOs. I'm such a name dropper, but anyway, I talk to these CEOs all the time. Anyway, but they have been telling me, to a man and woman, we've had trouble getting certain things in the store. And if you have kids, a lot of toys, a lot of the labor, the cheaper labor that we get from Mexico and Latin America that make a lot of this stuff has had trouble getting through the Gulf. So there could be delays in precious toys for kids and a lot of hot must-have items maybe this holiday. So you could see supply disruptions and maybe some of your favorite things not there. I am not in the camp that says it's going to be a depressing holiday season for sales. I do think that if you have kids and they got to have a certain doll or a certain toy car, that there might be delays in getting that, or it might not be there to be had.
I saw a report the other day that says, every time there's a recession, just before it, the gasoline prices are through the roof. If you're saying take a pause, I shouldn't even use the word recession then.
I get nervous when people say recession because we all remember what the sentiment was around 9/11. I can remember many smart, highly paid money managers saying this is going to be a multi-year recession. People will stop shopping. People will be in this depressive funk for maybe years to come. We all know that within weeks of the attack, people were back again doing their American thing. So I know I tend to be a bit of a Pollyanna on this, but I think we all should remember that we have a history of coming back from difficult moments, and I don't think we'll be any different this time.
I was just thinking about what you mentioned about supplies. Boy, a cut into food supplies, that would be tough.
Well, that's it. You keep in mind that a lot of the things we get transported through the Gulf, like everything from bananas, cereal, to bread, to bakery products, which I'm particularly fond of. Ho-hos, yodels, forget it. But, that's going to be a problem, getting to stores right now. And that is something we could already see increases and we're seeing it in cereal prices already.
And that's why this is
coffee,
not
for
just
example.
a Gulf Coast story. This affects all of us around the
Well, that's funny because you and I were saying, it's a lot of people say, why are we focused on the hurricane? Because whether you're in the region or not, it will affect us all. Coffee prices, I meant to say, are up 20% in the last 2 months.
Weekend Live is going live tomorrow with your business blog.
The whole network, we're on this. So I think the one good thing here is that if you're nervous about this, if you're concerned about where this is going to put you financially and way beyond finance, this is bigger than just money.
Neil,
we're going to look at it.
The film just was reduced to a Cat 3. We want to get the latest information out of the National Hurricane Center. Orlando Salinas is down there. Neil, thank you.
Neil.
Hey, Mike, there you go. Just a couple of minutes ago, we did hear from the folks here at the National Hurricane Center putting out their latest advisory. Rita, who once was as high as a 175 monster, now has gone down to a Category 3 storm. She is right now spinning at about 125 miles an hour. Guys, a Cat 3 storm blows between 111 and 130 miles per hour. Once again, the NHC here in Miami now says that Rita has moved down just a few miles per hour to a Category 3 storm. But I'm telling you, we were speaking with Ed Rappaport. He is the deputy director here at NHC earlier, and he said, folks, do not get caught up in this Category 3, Category 4, Category 5 stuff. All you really need to remember is that this is all bad. Just because she's diminished by a few miles per hour doesn't mean that this is going to wreak really any less havoc upon the coastline. It's all going to be bad. So if you're sitting back there and you're listening and you're thinking, you know what, maybe I might actually sit back now because she's down to a Category 3, wrong move, bad decision. The point is, if you can still get out, start moving away. Remember, she is big. She spreads right now 410 miles across, wall to wall. Rita's still heading in, making landfall very late tonight, very early tomorrow morning. Guys?
Orlando, thank you very much. And we were just talking with our audience about some things going on in the
yeah, but I think we should take to heart what Orla just said there. Don't be so caught up in the numbers. The 3 is still big, and we'll have coverage of this Rita all night long on Fox News Channel for you.
But now we want to go out to Martha McCowan. She is live in Houston with the latest. Martha?